Hey people, this episode of WTF is sponsored by Stamps.com. Go to Stamps.com and type in WTF when you click the radio microphone to start a no-risk trial and get a bonus offer worth $110. That's Stamps.com. Enter WTF. Do it.
Lock the gate!
All right, let's do this. How are you, what the fuckers, what the fuck buddies, what the fucking ears, what the fucknicks, what the fuckadelics, what the fuckaristas, what the fuckaholics? You know, either I'm going to do it or I'm not, but it seems like sometimes when I do it, I keep doing it. I don't know how appealing that is, but well, that time I did it. All right, so there's that. This is Marc Maron. This is WTF. Thank you for listening to my show. I appreciate it. You know, I got a guy on today that some of you know real well. And some of you may not know at all, but I got CM Punk on today. Now, we'll get to that in a second, because I don't know if you know this about me. I don't know a lot about wrestling, but I became fairly intrigued with it when I interviewed Colt Cabana. Colt Cabana is a fan of my show. He started his own wrestling podcast. You should check that out. Art of Wrestling. Now, I learned some things from Colt. Now, my dear friend Brendan McDonald, huge wrestling fan. Some of you out there grew up with it. Love it, right? Right? You get it? It's the is it fake, is it not fake thing? Not an issue for you because you love the sport or the theater or the spectacle of wrestling. So when I talked to Colt, I got that. I understood it. I mean, my recollection of wrestling when I was a kid, there were these sad guys on Sunday morning coming from Tingley Coliseum at the State Fairgrounds in Albuquerque, New Mexico. There was a little guy with gray hair, slicked back, and a gray goatee, as I recall, interviewing dudes in unitards and them throwing chairs around. Why did it not resonate with me? Why am I not a wrestling guy? I don't fucking know. I wish I was. I think I would have been a better person if I was into professional wrestling. Because if I was into professional wrestling, I know that some things that you may know in your heart are bullshit are just tremendous. Tremendous spectacles of theater and athletics and blood and guts and screaming and yelling. I would know that those things, even though it's not real, but some of the blood is real and some of these guys get really hurt, but you know what I'm saying? They're scripts. If I had been into that, perhaps I wouldn't expect that out of my life. Perhaps my personal life would be a little less dramatic if I had a healthy respect of professional wrestling. That's what I'm saying. I mean, but I also was not a metal kid either. I somehow, in my mind, there's an analogy between like goth, metal, and wrestling. You know, somewhere, I don't know. You know, some part of my brain, I know Alice Cooper's not a professional wrestler, but there's some theatrics there that you know are not necessarily, you know he's not really that guy. You know he's not really wearing that eyeshadow and eye makeup when he goes home. Yeah. Whatever. Maybe that's my own thing. But I started to think about it, like heels and faces, heroes and villains, characters. I mean, wouldn't that be helpful? Have you ever been in a relationship where, you know, once those roles are established, who's the heel, who's the face, the scripts just play out and you have no control over them? They just fucking keep repeating themselves. It's like being at the worst wrestling match ever. That would be an interesting spectacle if instead of professional wrestling or even amateur wrestling, you just had couples going up there playing the heel, playing the face, and just going through their tedious scripts and predictable bullshit until the winner is decided. But someone would always lose. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I think the lesson of wrestling is essentially that these things, really mythic battles, physical battles, psychological and emotional battles, spectacles of good and evil on the human plane are played out right before you. And I never really realized that there were so many scripts and that the whole racket of wrestling was sort of coming up with a script that works for you. And a lot of these guys have been both heels and faces. And I don't know, I learned a lot. But I want to tell you going into this that I did not know CM Punk. I know he and Colt Cabana were good friends, and Colt reached out to me, and he was a fan, and he taught me a little bit about wrestling. And then CM Punk, who turns out to be this huge dude, turns out he's a fan of mine. I find that out, and I'm like, I got to talk to this guy. But I am a dude that doesn't necessarily know a lot about it. So I'm coming to it from that angle. Here I was, I didn't even, I watched some CM Punk, I watched some wrestling, I didn't know what to expect, I'm waiting outside, I'm waiting for this dude to come, and a dude comes up, and I'm like, you're the guy? you're the mighty CM Punk, but he's intense, man. And he did some real shit in his world, some real ballsy stuff. But I was sort of thrilled to to talk to him, because not unlike him, in my life I've certainly been a heel and a face. I think I'm actively equal parts of both of them. Is that my wrestling character? Could I have a wrestling character? What would my heel character be? That, like, I just, complained so angrily and loudly that people found it annoying, and the face would have to try to get me to quit whining. Is there such thing as a neurotic wrestling character? Definitely there is. I wish I knew more. I'm going to know more. The CM Punk thing is cool. I'm glad he's here. Hey, folks, you know what time it is? It's Stamps.com time. How do you like that? I mean, with the holidays almost here, you don't have time to go to the post office. Not even if you do have time. How much time do you want to spend there? I mean, seriously, think about it. You, with perhaps a IKEA bag full of your boxes that you want to get out, and already you're panicking because you don't know, is the mail even going to work over the holidays? Is it going to get there on time? There's going to be traffic. There's going to be parking problems. There's going to be people online with you with dozens of boxes that, you're going to grow to hate. While you're waiting on that line. That's not a holiday thing. That doesn't sound like a happy holiday season. So do what I do. Use Stamps.com instead. With Stamps.com, you can absolutely avoid all the hassle of going to the post office during the holiday season, because it's crazy there. All right? Everything you would do at a post office, you can do right from your desk. Buy and print official U.S. postage using your own computer and printer. Print postage for any letter or package the instant you need it. Then the mailman picks it up. We just hand it to him. Hand a big pile of gifts to the guy. It's easy. Just do it. I do it. I'm going to be mailing out your gifts so you can mail them out to your friends. The things you order from me, from WTFpod.com, will probably, if I send them from the garage, they will be Stamps.com packages. So look, you should use it. I use it. I'm not telling you should use it because I use it, but I'm telling you it's a good deal. Right now, get this special offer when you use my promo code WTF. It's a no-risk trial plus a $110 bonus offer. It includes a digital scale and up to $55 of free postage. So don't wait, people. Go to Stamps.com. Before you do anything else, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage and type in WTF. That's Stamps.com. Enter WTF. I could be a wrestling announcer. I've got skills on the mic. Do you remember, though, I mean, when you were a kid, I don't know when you grew up, but when I grew up, like the newsstand, they used to have magazines, back when magazines were possible and around, these pro wrestling magazines, and they were just bloody dudes in unitards, dudes holding bloody dudes' faces, just blood all over the place. And right next to them were True Detective magazines. You remember those? So you got your bloody dudes, and like one dude holding another guy's head, or holding the guy upside down, or holding the guy around the waist, blood all over the place. And right next to it, just dead ladies. Dead ladies on front of the True Detective magazines. What was that audience? Who was reading those? Kids. I don't know who was reading the True Detectives. I looked at one. It was just sordid shit, man. I don't know what that evolved into. I think professional wrestling is, it actually informed almost everything about modern entertainment. And I think those True Detective magazines probably informed everything about tabloid television. It all started on the newsstand, people. Let's talk to the very human, and quite honestly, I had a lot in common with him. CM Punk. I don't know what, it's weird. I don't know what to, as you know.
What to call me?
No, we'll call you Phil or CM.
It's
or
fine.
Phil's good?
Phil's fine. Punk, whatever. Everybody
Punk?
Always has that problem.
Really?
Yeah, all the time. What do I call you?
Yeah.
Mr. Punk.
Mr. Punk?
And I actually have a weird thing. See, I think our lives are very parallel and similar, but you don't have a code name.
No, I need a code name.
I have
asshole.
I have code names. That's a nickname.
Oh, okay. What's a code name?
I don't know. You have to pick a code name.
Oh, for like to have somebody like.
Well, I have a code name.
What is
CM Punk, obviously.
Oh, right. That's a code name.
It's my professional name, but
right.
I have a big problem with people who don't know me coming up to me on the street and just being like, "Hey, Phil." You know what I mean?
Do fans do that? I mean, isn't that sort of an affronting thing? Sort of like, yeah, I know who you are, Phil.
I think it's to me, it's very confrontational.
Well, I can't.
Because you don't know me as Phil, you know?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's a weird thing also to introduce myself to somebody like you, meeting for the first time. Hi, my name's what do I say? Punk. It's weird.
But Phil, I mean, do you have a struggle with the identity of who you are publicly, just or like in the sense that you've got friends that know you for years and you're probably Phil to them.
Yeah.
And then you've got millions of fans who either love you or hate you.
A lot of both, yeah.
So they're going to come at you with all kinds of shit. Either they're going to respect the character, or if a fan comes up to you and says, "What's up, Phil?" I would assume that your first thought is like, "This fucker's trying to get under my skin."
Yes. Absolutely. Or do I know this person? You know what I mean? Because honestly, like a whole ton of people don't call me Phil. It's really weird.
Yeah.
You know?
Like a whole ton of people that know you for years, though?
Yeah. Still.
Like your parents? Are your parents still around?
I don't. They're around, but I don't talk to them.
You don't talk to either of them?
We'll get right into it. I actually just got a 2-year order of protection against both of them.
Both your parents?
Yes.
Like a restraining order?
My biological parents, Dan and Harriet.
Dan and Harriet need to be restrained?
Yes.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yes.
Where are they?
They're in Chicago.
Yeah, so I was just in Chicago.
Yeah.
And you came to my show.
I did.
And I didn't get to meet you afterwards. I was very nervous because I'm not a big wrestling guy. I have to say, I'm sort of a...
I'd imagine you're not a wrestling guy at all.
Well, okay. Right. I mean, I didn't want to say that. But, I mean, it took me a long time to appreciate it. I talked to your buddy, Scott.
Yes.
And he's a great guy. Mm-hmm. And I learned a lot from him. And, my partner, my friend Brendan, who works with me, is a huge wrestling guy, grew up with it. And it took me a long time just to appreciate the nature of the spectacle and and the ancient art of wrestling. Mm-hmm. But I guess what I'm getting at is like after watching you on Be a Wrestler and seeing you get out of your car, I was like, I didn't.
The mystique was blown?
No, the mystique isn't blown, but I had maybe it was blown a little bit, but. I mean, you guys are fucking gladiators. For a second, when you got out of your rental car, I'm imagining,
yep.
I wanted you to put your hands up and sort of triumphantly walk up the street.
No, I limped towards you meekly and said, "What's up? What's going on?"
But let's start with wrestling fans, though, because I like this idea that that guys come up to you and they're like, "What's up, Phil?" That wrestling fans know the artifice of wrestling, they understand the spectacle of wrestling, they're huge fans of wrestling, but they still know you're just a guy. Right. So in order to get under your skin,
I think some people don't know that I'm just a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But see, it's such a weird world because there really isn't a big difference between me sitting here podcasting with you or me on television. You know what I mean? Like some people are like, "Oh, I play a garbage man," or some people are like, "I'm this guy." And, you know what I mean? I don't do any of that.
I believe that to a degree, but I mean, still, when you get up there and you have a role to play and you're in a room full of screaming, just fans that have very specific expectations out of you. I know you're just you, but you have to fulfill or defy their expectations because it's your job. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
So just sitting here with me and you, it's a little different.
A little bit, yeah, but I try not to make it different because I think what's interesting about me is me.
Yeah. Well, that's, I think, what you're known for in wrestling is you have this sort of organic approach that is not, all based on spectacle. You seem to have found a part of yourself that can genuinely become the character. It's almost a risk because I don't know if that's common among a lot of wrestlers where they can say what you're saying right now.
No, I think it's easier for people to play a role and get into whatever character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they can separate that. But to me, I've always been the little punk kid with a big mouth that would just get beat up and still continue just to talk shit. Before
wrestling.
It's all I've ever known.
This was
all I've ever known.
This was your mode. You're a smart ass, and you just defy people to kick your ass.
Yes.
And did you get your ass kicked a lot?
Countless times. Countless times. And there's not one single tough guy or badass on the planet that can say that they've never been beat up.
Right.
That's anybody who says no, I've never been beat up, you're full of shit.
Well, I'm not a tough guy or a badass, and I can honestly say I've never been beat up physically.
Well, probably because you know when to shut up. I never have ever known when
I don't know.
enough is enough.
I think I'm pretty diplomatic, is what it is.
You can be kind of scary.
Yeah,
I saw that.
Really?
I saw that in Chicago. The na guy.
Oh yeah, that poor fucking guy.
No, I was actually sitting directly above him.
Yeah.
And as that was going on, I was ready to just jump on him.
On that doughy fat kid?
Yes.
It was annoying. Yeah, I can be intimidating and menacing, but when it come right down to it, like if you would have come up, like if I would have started shit with you, I know who you were, and you would have stood me down on stage, it would be a very ugly thing. I would just be like, I'm sorry, okay.
Well, at least you could have passed it off as being funny. You're a comedian.
Yeah, maybe. I was tackled once on stage, but...
oh, really?
Yeah, physically tackled.
Me too.
Yeah. Many times. All right, so let's go back to where where this comes from, because like you're unlike a lot of wrestlers in that you're more yourself, and actually it was sort of a struggle for a guy like you. You're a little smaller than a lot of them, right? Mm-hmm. Does that piss you off when?
No, because that's absolutely 100% the truth. I mean, I'm 210 pounds, 215 after I eat. You know what I mean? Like, it's not. I'm one of those guys that in the world of professional wrestling, I'm looked at as a quote unquote small guy.
Right, but it was a struggle for you because you were world champion for how long?
A long time.
Like one of the longest.
I'm partially dyslexic. It was either 434 days or 443 days.
And that's like one of the longest runs of anybody.
The longest in the last 25, 27 years, something like that. Like there's a list, and it's like Bruno Sammartino, Bob Backlund, Pedro Morales, Hulk Hogan, me.
Yeah,
which is fucking mind blowing.
But there was a point where you weren't even in the game, right? I mean that in terms of like the way wrestling works, it's like monopolized. There's only one real game,
right?
For someone to get that stature, and that's WWE, right?
Yeah.
So there was a period there where I know I talked to Colt about it, and I know it's a lot of it's entertainment, but a lot of it's also physical competition on some level, and spectacle and showmanship. But, you were not in the running.
Right.
And how did you fight your way out of that?
Well, I've always just kind of put my head down and, charged ahead and just worked super hard. And I think I know what's good, and I think I know what sucks. And there's politics behind it, and there's everything. And the only thing I ever did was go out there and try to steal the show like every single time. You know what I mean? And it's like it's a grind, we're on the road so long, and I eventually, after stealing the show for so long and going out there and doing my job, in my opinion, better than anybody on the crew. Yeah. And you just don't get opportunities, you know what I mean? So I started rattling the cage. I just started pissing people off, and then eventually my contract was up and they wanted me to re-sign, and I just refused to do it. I just refused to resign.
And you were public about that.
Yeah, very, very public.
So basically what you did is sort of like you were just persistent. You're like, fuck you, deal with me. Fuck you, deal with me. And
tell me I suck and fire me, but you're trying to re-sign me, and I'm telling you I'm the best thing that you have. So you put me in your top spot, period. That's it.
So the spots, that's what it is.
That's
You're
what
fighting
it is.
for spots.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what does the top spot mean in wrestling?
I mean, top spot, it's weird because it's not a real competition. You know what I mean? It's not UFC.
Right.
But on the other hand, you should want to be the champion.
Right.
The champion gets paid more money.
Right.
Period.
So it's not a real competition, but there is a game to it. But the game is mostly politics.
My job, in a lot of ways, sucks because there's so much negative to it. You know what I mean? Like, people will point at me and be like, it's fake, it's phony, it's not real, you're bullshit. But on top of it, it's just like, there's high caliber athletes. They'd never be able to do what we do at all. Right. Because it can be so cutthroat, and so, so it's a big contradiction.
Well, how do you fucking live with that? Because, I mean, like, in my head, I know that wrestling's fake, but it took a conversation with Colt Cabana and the passion of my friend Brendan to tell me that doesn't matter, because the spectacle of it and the emotions that it serves and the nature of the show is as important as any sort of competition.
Yeah. It's weird, you know. It's a lot of. We're movie stars, but we're also like NFL players in a way, you know?
Right?
So it's really strange.
But you're talking about an integrity to it. So the struggle is that.
Well, to me, it was never about being a superstar or making money or anything like that. Like I just fell in love with wrestling when I was a kid, so I wanted to wrestle.
Like how old were you?
Oh God, you know, I always beat this story over the head, and like you know, I put an age on it off the top of my head one time doing an interview, like, oh, I was 5, and I remember, you know, one of my first memories. Watching Roddy Piper smash a coconut over Jimmy Snuka's head. And in my head, I was a kid, I was watching the television.
Right.
This guy's on TV, so that means he's a millionaire.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And he's just talking shit and getting away with it. You know what I mean?
But it resonated to you at that time as real. I mean, you didn't sit there and think this was fake. I mean, you could have seen, you know, a slapstick movie that would have given you that. But there was something about the intensity of the emotion of this, that these guys were grown men screaming at each other, maybe with blood on them.
Well, I think it's definitely, you know, when you're a kid and you see wrestling, it's like, you know, you don't look at it like you look at a movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're watching it and you're like, oh, they're two dudes and they're on TV and they're fighting.
Yeah.
You know, so this is real, right? You know?
Yeah. Right.
You know, and I never had a moment where somebody was like, you know, it's fake, and I was like, oh,
right.
What? You know, it's just something you gradually learn.
When did you learn that it was fake?
Oh, God, I don't even have a story for that. I don't even know.
But come on, you must have felt something that it's sort of like, you know, finding out Santa isn't real. I would imagine as a kid who loved wrestling, the day you realized that that this was scripted.
I just think wrestling is so stigmatized. Like, there's always somebody around the corner that go, you know, it's bullshit, right?
Right. All right. Well, then what isn't bullshit about it?
The 4 stitches I just got taken out of my chin, the 13 staples I just got taken out of my head a week ago. You know, my fractured skull from 2002, you know, knee surgery, elbow surgery.
Right.
Like, you know, we get the shit beat out of us. And then we have, you know, as we're limping to our cars or we're at Denny's at 4 a.m, there's always that dickhead who's like, well, you're bullshit. I'm just like, you know. So what am I supposed to do? Stand up and fuck this guy up in Denny's?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could.
I want to.
Is that what they're asking for?
I think so.
Because some part of you is asking for it, right?
And back in the day when I was on the Independent and stuff like that, I used to get into fights all the time because I was way gung-ho about it, and I was, you know, like, I have to protect this. And if a fan questions your integrity or challenges the business, you fucking show them what's up. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I was taught, and that's what I was learned, and I had this obsession with, like, old school wrestlers like Harley Race and, you know, guys like that.
Right.
Who take no shit, like just tough dudes.
Yeah.
And I always had more of an uphill battle because I'm a smaller guy. So to me, I would just throw hands like every chance I got.
Well, what did you see? Because I think what you're saying is really interesting because it's sort of fucking my mind up a little bit. So
good,
because you know that this conflict you have in yourself, you know that wrestling is fake on some level. Mm-hmm. But the way that it's real is that the physical dexterity and skills that is necessary to do it are very real. And you will get hurt. So even though you're sitting there with another dude or you're tag teaming or there's 4 dudes or 2 dudes and you're fighting, you know the script, but you also know, do you know when you're going to fucking take a hit that's going to give you stitches, or is that just part of the game?
No, and normally it's the stupid stuff that gets you hurt. You know what I mean? Like,
you mean you're not supposed to get hurt?
No. I mean, you want to avoid it as much as you possibly can, unless you need a vacation, because that's the only time you get time off, you know?
Right.
Unless you're me and you don't get time off, even if you get surgery. You know,
right. Why? Because you're working for the man?
I don't know. I'm a valuable asset. I don't know. I got elbow surgery on a Wednesday, and I was at a show on Friday. I got knee surgery, you know, on a Tuesday, and I was like a tribute to the troop show on a Friday. I don't know. It's just a grind.
You're a good showman. You're the guy.
I guess.
Yeah.
I literally, in December, I got my knee operated on, and I walked out of the hospital. I got in my car, whatever, with the driver and all that. It's not like I was driving.
Right.
They're driving me to my hotel, and Vince McMahon called me and said, I heard good news. I heard the surgery went well. And I was, I'm all doped up. I'm like, yeah, it's great. Feel great. Whatever.
Yeah.
And he goes, great. I got you wrestling Ryback in a tables, ladders, and chairs match in 3 weeks. And I was just like, I was on the phone with him, and I just went, hang on, and I just handed the phone to my girlfriend. I was like, you talk to him, because I don't know what's going on right now. I just had surgery.
Yeah. So he just expected you to go right back to work.
Yeah.
Well, but you're also a rebel. Like, you know, when you took on the corporate structure of wrestling, were you really defying them, and did that, you know, gain you respect and more employment? Because I know that a big turning point in your career publicly was calling out a bunch of wrestlers on their shit and calling out Vince McMahon on his shit. And he's the king. There is no other guy if you want to make a big living in wrestling.
Nope.
Now, was that real?
Yeah.
So when you...
I was so angry and so pissed off that I watched dudes who, you know, right or wrong, I felt weren't as good as me, or even as good as some other guys on the show, you know, get these opportunities time and time again. And character-wise, I was a bad guy, and real life-wise, my contract was coming up. So it's the most dangerous attitude I think you can have in life, is just, I don't give a fuck. What are they going to do? Fire me?
Right.
I'm not re-signing. You know what I mean? And they would come to me and they would be like, oh, hey, we got this great movie script. We're going to put you in a movie. And I would just be like, no, just read the script.
Yeah.
No, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Because I know if I say yes, you're going to want me to re-sign, and I have to re-sign if I want to do the movie. And no, fuck you. I'm not re-signing.
Yeah.
And like that was power.
Oh, when you don't give a fuck?
Yeah.
No one wants to negotiate with that.
No,
because there's no negotiating.
Right.
Either you win or you lose.
And there used to be a time in my career where they would ask me to do something, and I would motherfuck them up and down. No, blah, 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 this, that. And now I'm at the point where they ask me to do something, and I just go, no. Nah. And like, you know, and they just give up because they know they're not even going to push it. But I'm not going to stress out about it anymore.
Right.
I'm just going to be like, whatever. But hey, sign this for your Work Japan for visa. And what happens if I don't sign it? Well, then you can't get into Japan.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, I'm not going to Japan.
Sweet. No 15-hour plane ride?
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not signing it.
But when you first did it, what was, like, did it garner you more respect from like Vince? Or when you first said, I don't give a fuck you, you know, I deserve better than this, and they knew you meant it, then did they start playing on your terms a little bit?
I mean, I eventually obviously did re-sign, and I don't regret it. I got everything I wanted and then some. But yeah, I definitely think Vince is one of those guys that he lives by the law of the jungle. Only the strong survive. You know, Lion's the king of the jungle. Like,
right.
It's weird, but that's who that guy is. That's who he is.
Right.
And yeah, if you're a pussy, yeah, he doesn't got time for you. Absolutely. You know what I mean? Like, he'll walk all over you, and he'll just be like, God damn it. You know, like, he expects you. Well, maybe not even expects, but like, yeah, he's one of those old school guys that like definitely respects it more.
Where do pussies end up in wrestling?
Bottom of the card, fired, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, the life expectancy of a WWE, you know, contracted wrestler is like, I don't know, I think average 2 years, 3 years maybe, something
and
like
you've been going for what?
I signed with them in 2005.
So you're having a long run.
Yeah.
But now let's go back, because, you know, I talked a little bit about this with Colt, and you guys are buddies, right?
Best friends, yeah. We met each other in like 1998, 99, something like that.
And like, in terms of the difference between, you know, you two, his approach now is that, you know, he's sort of become comfortable with the independent circuit.
Yeah.
Because that's where he feels that, you know, he's going to have the most success.
That's his bread and butter. And to me, he's a genius.
Yeah.
You know,
why is that?
He didn't get a fair shake up here. You know what I mean? And like, it's one of the reasons why I wasn't re-signing and I was so pissed off.
Because of Colt?
Because I've watched guys who were super talented not even get a shot. You know, they're just kept down in developmental, and they don't even get a chance to show the world what they can do. You know what I mean? And I think that's super unfortunate. And for a guy like him, who's awesome at what he does, you know, I don't even know if they offered him a job right now. Like, it'd probably be more business savvy for him to turn it down, because he's created literally what I call an empire.
Yeah.
You know, he does his podcast. He does, you know, comedy shows, and he has, you know, his own merchandise, and he's an entrepreneur in every sense of the word. Do you find that the fans that are drawn towards, it seems to me that with the big game, that the fans are there's no tongue in cheek to it. That, you know, they are invested full on emotionally. There's still a lot of people that think, especially like south of the Mason-Dixon.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people that it's real to them. 100%. It's real.
Yeah. And do you play a lot down there?
Yeah. Oh yeah. The Bible Belt's my favorite. Yeah. Everything closes at 2:00. Can't go to a gym on Sunday. Yeah, it's my absolute favorite.
But so there's still that even though whatever conflict you have between, whether it's real or not, or what that means to certain people, that there's a good number of fans that are completely emotionally invested. Even if they don't think it's real, they're emotionally invested in the spectacle and the narrative of all their favorite wrestlers.
Yes.
And those are the guys that drive the thing, right?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, that's the general audience. Yeah. The like the smart fans who are in on it, and they're like, they're like super into it, and they read everything on the internet and stuff like that. That's a small sliver of the pie.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of energy in the room. It's a fucking big show, man.
It can be. Yeah. It's wild.
Now, just as a guy who doesn't watch wrestling, I didn't want to, not. I got to admit that, so
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not offended by that in any way, shape, or form.
I feel shitty about it.
I think it's great because there's gonna be some sort of organic something that happens here, and as we talk about it, and I think that's what this is for. Everybody learns something.
What is the nature of surprise for those people if they just know that these scripts are going to repeat themselves in one form or another? That once they are emotionally invested or they're fans of certain wrestlers, and you were a bad guy, are you still a bad guy?
No, I'm a good guy now.
So
I think so.
Maybe we should go back a little bit. So when you first started wrestling, how did you start wrestling?
I started when I was a little kid. You're super impressionable, and the world is beginning to mold you. And I learned at a very young age that my parents weren't going to help me. They couldn't help themselves.
What was their racket? What'd they do?
My mom was a mom.
Yeah.
My dad was an electrician, perpetually laid off. You know what I mean?
Bitter, angry guy, or what?
No, Jesus Christ, I have zero bitterness or anything towards them. My dad was a sweetheart.
Yeah.
My mom was a little bit of a nutter.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, this is real life.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with wrestling, and I had an aunt who was closer to my age than she was my mom's age.
Right.
Like there's a big age gap.
Yeah.
And I was always over at my grandpa's house, either on both of them lived on the south side of Chicago.
Yeah.
And she was always going to a place called Medusa Circle, early Chicago punk club.
Yeah.
And so I got into all this different kind of music. And,
oh, really? So your aunt was like literally that much younger, and she was into rock.
Yeah, she was like a total punker. You know what I mean? And I was a kid, and I was like Duran, awesome. You know what I mean? The Ramones, the Clash, great.
You went to see them?
Oh, I never saw Clash or Duran. I got to see the Ramones.
Oh, you did in Chicago with your aunt?
No, I saw them. Years later, early '90s.
So she turns you on to that. You knew there was a world out there that was different than the world you were being brought up in. That
yes,
yeah,
and so what punk rock teaches me as a kid is do it yourself.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. You don't need anybody else to help you. DIY, do it yourself.
Yeah.
One day, I'm at my local comic shop, and this buddy of mine's like, "Hey, we got this bullshit." He didn't say bullshit, but he's like, we wrestle. It's called the LWF. It's the Lunatic Wrestling Federation, and we roll around
How
in
old
the
are you?
backyard. It's 15.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to me, it was the greatest thing ever. I was like, yeah, let's do it. So after WWF pay-per-views, we just roll out in the backyard and film it on one of those old big
Betamax.
Huge. I'm not that old, Mark.
Camcorder.
Right.
Yeah.
And it literally snowballed from there. You know what I mean? Like we had seasons, obviously, because we're in Chicago and you can't wrestle in the snow. But one day I'm like, let's build a ring.
Yeah.
So we borrow all the materials from local construction sites.
Sure, yeah.
You
gave it back.
And absolutely.
You're borrowing shit from construction sites in Chicago.
Yeah.
There's a little risk in that.
No, low risk. We build a ring. It was a death trap. It was a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
We weren't carpenters.
Where'd you build it? Whose yard?
Some girl, you know what I mean? Yeah, you know how you find comfort, on the road, and strangers and women, and then, it was just some
chick who liked what you were doing?
Some girl whose father had an empty lot next to her house. You know what I mean? We just put it there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that snowballs into let's buy a ring.
Yeah.
Great. How much are those? $3,000. Jesus Christ, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Raise the money, buy a ring.
You bought a ring.
Yeah.
Where'd you put that?
It was in my garage for a while.
Yeah.
And then we would take it apart, put it back up.
And then were you guys like mimicking what you saw on television, the moves and everything?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't know any better, you know. I mean, who the hell knows?
But I mean, you knew there were moves.
Yeah, who the hell knows you go to school, or who the hell knows that you got to suplex a guy on the left side? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that goes back to dudes working in factories,
Right?
You know, and back when the world everyone was right-handed.
Yeah.
You know, you can break my left arm, but don't break my right arm because
Yeah.
I need to work the machines at you know. So we do that, and then the next thing you know, we were having these outlaw backyard shows on a farm in where the hell was it? I can't remember the name of the town now.
It was in Illinois.
One dude had a girlfriend at the time whose father had a farm, and we put the ring there and would advertise like in my high school and like the rival high schools. Like I'd make flyers. Like I mean, super punk rock. You know what I mean? Like,
but did you have costumes?
Yeah, because it was it was us goofing around. So everybody had like a main character, and they had like their jobber characters. You know what I mean? The dudes who just get beat up and lose all the time. You know,
so you each had two characters.
Yeah, everybody had like a dozen.
How many
characters.
guys were involved in this?
I mean, there was a handful. Like the main. I mean, there were like 6 or 7 main.
And these were guys,
kids.
just guy you went to high school with.
I actually no. A lot of them were older than me. And they went to like high school across town.
Right.
Like, I didn't hang out or talk to anybody from my high school.
Why?
I don't know. I just didn't get along with them.
Were you in athletics then, or were you?
No. I wanted to be like I remember specifically when I was in 8th grade. You know, and I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, but I was just like, everybody on the football team is cool, and you know, I'm just like a dorky, nerdy punk rock kid.
Really?
You know, yeah. Like, I mean, I get beat up because I have blue hair, I have a mohawk, or you know what I mean.
You had blue hair in high school?
Yeah.
So you were an outsider.
100%. But you know what I mean. Like, but I wanted to do something. So like, I remember like. Everybody going to bed and like me going back downstairs and like doing push-ups and sit-ups, you know what I mean? Because I was like, when I go to high school, I'm gonna try out for like the football team or the wrestling team,
right?
And like I tried out for both, and like I remember specifically Mr. Hall, son of a bitch, Mr. Hall telling me that I couldn't be on the team. I had to cut my hair off.
Wait, you had long hair or blue hair?
For wrestling, I had long hair and I had a mohawk.
Yeah.
For football, and you know what I mean.
And they wouldn't let you do it.
Well, and that's when I realized I was like, man, shit, this guy just doesn't want me on the team because I'm a weirdo. It's got nothing to do with my hair,
right? And
now I walk around and all the jocks and football players have mohawks, and I shake my fists because I'm like, I got my ass kicked for that. You know, that was like a
You're
thing.
a trailblazer.
That was a thing back then, and now you guys all walk around, like, you know.
It meant something when you were a kid.
Just let us have something.
Yeah,
you know.
So they wouldn't let you on the team.
No. So I kind of outsourced. One of my friends that I would do the silly backyard stuff with took Ryukyu Kempo, and his girlfriend was like way into it. So like I got into that, and through that,
and that is what
some whack ass karate.
Yeah,
you know.
So you started doing that martial arts,
pressure point fighting, and like breaking people's arms and like fingers and like just wild shit.
Yeah.
So I started doing that, and then through that, I found jiu-jitsu. We had a jiu-jitsu black belt in the school, and like that was the most magical thing I'd ever seen up until that point of my life. I was just like, whoa, like dude was 120 pounds soaking wet, tapping out, choking out big 300-pound bikers. I was just like, I'm in, you know, and like I got into it that way.
Well, what stopped you from pursuing, you know, legitimate competition in that way?
There wasn't any legitimate competition back then. I mean, this was early 90s.
So there was no kickboxing. There was no.
Well, but not to me. I wasn't exposed to that, and you know, I'm pretty sure certainly if there was any kind of like if UFC was bigger back then, because this will put it in the time frame for you. We actually had Dan Severn come to train with us when we were doing jiu-jitsu. He was about to do the super fight with Hoist Gracie. So that's like I don't know 93, 94,
right?
Something like that.
But it didn't seem like a path you wanted to take.
Not at the time. Because
So you were just learning it so you could fucking know you could kick anyone's ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was sick of getting punched in the face.
But how much did you get punched in the face?
I got punched in the face
By
a lot
who?
when I was a kid.
Who the fuck?
Dude, you just get on the, you get on the bus to go home from school, and you just start talking shit, and then it's like, okay, we're gonna fight.
But did you provoke people?
Me, no.
Seriously?
No, seriously. I would not.
You were the guy that people were like, I'm gonna go hit that guy.
I had a blue mohawk. I had blue hair. I was a weirdo. Dudes called me faggot all the time. Like, funny story. We do this big anti-bully campaign, Be a Star with WWE, and they get me in the studio and they put me in front of the camera, and they're like, and I truly believe in this because I think all kids get bullied.
Yeah.
So if even one kid sees me on there and they're like, oh shit, Punk was bullied. Wow, cool. Okay. And I can tell a kid, like, it's all right. It'll be okay. And even if one kid can take away something positive from that, that's great. But they get me in there and they're like, what did kids call you when they bullied you? And I was like, faggot. And they're like, oh God, you can't say that. And I was like, yeah, I get that, but that's what they would call me. I was gay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I was weird and I was into different stuff.
Right.
So what do you, I can't
And they wouldn't let you say it?
No. But I get that. They're not going to show a commercial on,
But that is a pretty standard bullying tactic for guys.
I think so.
Oh yeah, that was the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these guys were jocks. They were like high school jocks that would kick your ass.
Yeah, I got into fights with everybody. Yeah.
But there's something about that personality. What made you so fucking defiant? I mean, what was? Have you traced that back to the moment where you were like, "Fuck this, fuck you"? You say your dad was just a nice guy, and your mom was nuts, but something put that fucking anger in your heart.
I don't know.
You really don't know?
No, I don't. I just never, I never stopped talking shit. That people get tired of punching me in the face before I was tired of,
really
mouthing off.
So but were you the kid that the school would have to call your parents in all the fucking time? And
yeah, I got into some trouble. I the best part about it is my mom always would freak out and be like, "What are the neighbors gonna think?"
Yeah,
and I was like, "Fuck the neighbors. Who cares what the neighbors think?"
Yeah,
I had to pick you up from jail because that was the thing. Like if you were fighting in my high school, like everybody went to jail.
Yeah,
regardless.
So you went to jail.
Yeah.
A lot?
No, not a lot, but a couple times. But it was always just for fighting, and it's just dumb kid high school shit.
Yeah.
Suspended from school for 3 days, suspended from school for 5 days.
But there was some party that was like, you wanted to be your own guy. You're putting the blue hair on. You're doing things differently than everybody else. You you must have felt that.
I don't know. I never felt like I fit in anywhere. So I wasn't like,
yeah,
I'm a trailblazer and I'm super cool.
Right. No.
I think back then I would have given anything to be on the football team and
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
So all right. So now you're doing jujitsu. You're learning. Were you able to kick someone's ass finally? Did you have that? Was there that moment where somebody started shit with you? And
I remember vividly the first time that shit worked.
Really? How'd that go?
Magically, yeah.
What happened?
Well, it was my brother actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many brothers and sisters you got?
I got one biological brother. Everybody always hears me talk about my sisters.
Yeah.
My sisters, to me, you don't got to be blood to be family. 'Cause
Right.
my family was never, a family. They never helped me out. They never supported me. The only thing they ever really did was steal shit from me. So I had a best friend around that time, and their family just took me in.
Huh.
So her little sisters have known me since they were 3 and 5.
Right.
I've always been around.
Right.
I'm the big brother to them. That's my family. Those are my sisters. But yeah, one biological brother, and he was he got the brunt of the holy shit. This magical.
Is he older or younger?
He's 2 years older than me.
So your older brother.
Yeah.
You kicked his ass.
I mean, not a lot. I mean, one time he kicked my dog, and that sent me into a frenzy.
Yeah.
He
kicked your dog?
Don't fucking kick a dog, man.
Yeah, you're right.
Come on.
And how many moves did it take to take him out?
Not long. He had long hair at the time.
Uh-huh.
So it was over in a heartbeat.
And is he still around? Your brother?
He's alive.
You don't talk to him?
I haven't talked to him in 12 years. Something like that, yeah.
And you don't talk to your parents?
No.
All right. So I guess we're going to get there. All right. So now you're doing your backyard shit.
Yes.
So what was the path into wrestling?
Well, punk rock, right? Do it yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's wrestling schools and learning how to do all that stuff. Learning how to bump is what learning how to fall and stuff like that. Like that's all basic stuff that I truly believe you could teach a monkey how to do it. You know what I mean? Run the ropes. Learn the 3 different ways to take a bump, and you're set. It's just you eventually have to figure out through experience like when to do stuff.
Yeah.
It's not what you do, it's when you do it.
Right.
To get that crowd reaction and to get them invested.
Okay, so you got to play the crowd,
Yes.
and you got to feel the other guy out.
Absolutely.
You got to know what he's, where it's like a dance.
It's all up to the crowd.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when you first start out, you're in the back and you're talking to a guy. No, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this, and then it's your turn and you can do this and you can do this, and then now I refuse to talk to the guy. I hate it. You said something in Chicago that is very true with me. Is that preparation is for pussies. I've been doing this half my life.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You're ready.
And we're gonna go out there, and if they boo me, fuck it, I'm the bad guy. And if they cheer you, great. I'm gonna make you look like Superman.
Yeah.
But we're gonna wait for them. You know what I mean? And we're gonna go off them.
Interesting. And are there guys that are afraid of that?
Terrified of it.
Why?
I think because they lack the experience and they've never done it.
But they know how to handle anything that's going to come at them because the dance is.
I hope so.
You're not gonna. I mean, the moves. However you make them your own, there's a finite number of them, and if somebody has some experience, they know how to react.
Sure.
Right. But the idea of improvising is terrifying.
I think for a lot of guys it is. Yeah.
And well, then how? Like when at this point, when you're like, I'm not going to talk to the guy. What does that guy say to you?
Well,
fuck you, punk.
Sometimes,
I'm not going to play that game with you.
And there's a few guys. No, nobody ever does that. There's a few guys that prefer that. You know what I mean? But I think it's a very old school way of doing it, and unfortunately it's dying out, because
the improvisation.
Dude, there used to be so many territories, and so guys used to wrestle every night, twice on Saturday, twice on Sunday.
Sure.
And the guys in the business now just don't have that experience. They don't have that opportunity to do that. So somebody who's been in the business now 5 years, there's a big difference between somebody who started in 72.
Right.
Their 5 years was so much different than somebody's 5 years now. You know what I mean? Like I've talked to kids who are like, yeah, I've been wrestling for 8 years. It's like, how often do you wrestle? Once a month? It's like, okay, so you've wrestled like 80 matches. You know what I mean?
Right.
They just lack the experience, and it's not their fault. So
when you started, you were doing that circuit. You were doing circuits where you'd wrestle every fucking day.
No, when I started out, you know what I mean, I was doing backyard stuff, and we pissed everybody off in Chicago because we were untrained.
You were on the radar of that level of pro wrestler. Civic Auditorium.
They all hated us because
they knew you were there.
Dude, we were drawing crowds of like 1,000 people.
So it was real punk rock shit.
And they were drawing crowds of like 20 people.
The old timers.
And we would go to their shows and just heckle the shit out of them.
Oh, really?
You know what I mean? Yeah. And I was ready. And I was ready to fight any single person. You know what I mean?
Did you go in the ring in those when you were?
No, because that's a no-no. You do that, you're asking for.
When does it sort of turn into something where you become a force to be reckoned with? When you're in the actual game? I guess it was the game.
Here's how it happened for me. We were doing all this stuff and we were pissing everybody off. You know what I mean? And I think I'm a pretty rational guy.
Right.
I would look back at it and I would be amazed that we were just a bunch of dumb kids who were doing this. And we bought a ring and got a promoter's license. And this is back when Illinois was run by the evil boxing commission, and we did a lot of stuff that we shouldn't have been able to do.
Are you in touch with any of these guys still?
No.
Really?
I mean, big falling out.
With all of them?
Yeah.
Holy shit! Is there anybody you haven't had a falling out with?
Yeah, plenty of people.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Plenty of people.
So was it falling out around business, was it?
Well, what happened is we were doing all this great, amazing stuff to us.
Right.
Holy shit. 1,000 people. And
right.
None of us had ever been trained.
Right.
And we were doing all this wacky stuff. And I took that knowledge and I went, could you imagine how good we were if we went and learned the fundamentals and if we got trained? So I hooked up with a wrestling school in Chicago at the time called the Steel Domain, and I was almost immediately like persona non grata with my buddies.
With the punk rock crew.
Oh, you're getting trained, you know what I mean? And I would come back and like try to show guys like, no, this is the right way to do it, you know?
What a move.
Yeah. And you know what I mean? And like, the rift just kind of started from there. And then one day, for whatever reason, my brother was in charge of the finances. One day I was just like, there's some fishy shit going on here. Where's the money? How much money do we have? You know what I mean? We gotta, we need new guardrails.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
And then it came out that he stole all the money.
What did he do with it?
I don't fucking know. He smoked it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
He's a fuck up. You know, so I'm hot. I'm like, what the fuck? We got to kick this dude out. He just stole all our money.
Your brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and they were all buddies with him. So they were like, no, fuck you. You're out. And then I just went, fine. Fuck you dudes.
Yeah.
I'm going to go be a wrestler.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and and there's obviously other stories in there, you know, but that is in simplest terms, like what happened.
So you had this thing going with your brother and with these other dudes, and you were drawing a crowd of people because it was like its own thing.
Yeah.
And it was, it seemed like something new and real, and and your hearts were in it. And then, somebody fucked it up,
right.
And you were like, fuck it, now it's my turn to try to take a real shot.
Right, because this is what I wanted to do.
And those guys, you don't get the feeling that they want to do it? Did any of them keep doing it?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
the band broke up.
Kind of proved my point.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, this is something I want to do. I was serious about it.
But you had an appreciation of the art in a way, like, it's one thing to be a bunch of kids getting away with something and, wearing costumes or playing the parts the best you can know. But it seems to me that really what makes you different, and also in my conversation with Colt, is that, because you're real dudes, that you were doing this and you knew it was, a spectacle and a show, but you had such a passion for it that you were like, well, there's an integrity to this, and there's a way to do it right, and there's a way to sort of, get your own voice in a way.
Right.
Then you were like, that's what I'm going to do.
I had no choice up until that point. You know what I mean? Like that was it. Like I was the guy who paid for 3/4 of the ring. You know what I mean? Like I got ripped off. But like if life has taught me anything, it's just like fuck it. I'm not going to cry about it.
Yeah.
The best revenge is living well. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I was like, the bottom line, the number one goal is I just want to be a wrestler. You know what I mean? And this is where I wrestled, and now I can't wrestle there anymore. You know?
Yeah.
So fuck it. Fuck you guys. I'm going to go wrestle somewhere else.
And you were in school.
So then I started, you know what I mean? Like I would the guys who trained me, I would just jump in a car with them and I would go to shows. Fucking Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin.
The guys who trained you were doing shows.
Yeah. Minnesota. Like,
and where were these?
These were the guys in the Midwest that were hot. They were good, and everybody knew it.
Like,
so everybody wanted. There's Danny Dominion, Ace Steel, Kevin Quinn, a guy named Adam Pierce. There was always like guys on the East Coast that would get credit for being good, and guys on the West Coast and like Chicago, like the Midwest is just kind of like lost. But we had the benefit of being kind of central.
Yeah,
we could drive to Ohio.
Oh yeah, the Midwest
Iowa,
it's all right there.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Cleveland.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck, we'd get in a car and we'd drive 15 hours to Philly, do a show, drive back for like a show in Wisconsin at like 3 o'clock, just like, wired, driving like all night. You know what I mean? Like I'm crashing rental cars and just keep driving.
Right.
Just doing crazy shit. And then, I start wrestling, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Ian Rotten runs every Wednesday in Charlestown, Indiana. Fuck yeah, let's do it. You know what I mean? And you just go.
And you don't know who you're going to wrestle.
No. Sometimes you did, sometimes you didn't.
When the first time you got into the ring with these guys who were training you, or when you first got your shot, what was that? What was that day like? I mean, do you remember them?
They beat the shit out of me because I was the fucking backyard kid.
But the guys who knew you, or the other guys?
I mean, they knew of me.
When you say you went to a show, if there were 4 of you, were you wrestling each other? Is that the way it worked, or was there another crew there?
Sometimes, you know what I mean? But, you make connections and you meet the Michigan crew, you know what I mean? And then there's a crew down in Indiana and Kentucky, and you like meet them. But like, me and Cabana were married to each other for years because we realized, fuck it, we're 19, 20 years old. We're just going to jump in a car And one of the biggest pieces of advice I ever got from Ace Steele, one of my trainers, who's, no falling out. We're best friends.
Okay.
We talk all the time.
Okay.
Was just work as much as you can. You know what I mean? So I'm working for $10, barely gas money. Sometimes you got to throw a promoter down the stairs because he stiffs you. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And then you just try to steal everything in his house.
You did that?
Yeah, that happened a few times.
Few times?
Adam Pierce shoved some hot dogs in the guy's face because he tried to pay us with hot dogs, and then we just stole his phone.
It is a lot like comedy.
Oh, it's the Wild Wild West, and I don't know if it's like that anymore. You know what I mean? But pro wrestling used to be just anything go. It used to be pretty fucking crazy.
Were there situations where you'd get into a ring with somebody where the fight became real?
Yeah, it kind of happened a few times. It happened one time with a friend of mine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think it's easier to punch your friend in the face than it is to punch like a stranger in the face. You
Right.
know what I mean? Because it's just like, okay, maybe that guy just accidentally
Oh, I see. So
kicked me in the face. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
It's like you're your buddy and he's
Yeah.
cross-facing you and he chips your tooth. You're like, fucking relax. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, did you do that on purpose?
Yeah. Does the audience know when that shit happens?
I think sometimes they can tell. Yeah, because I just think the mood kind of changes.
I wonder if that's ever has that. I mean, are you guys so good? I mean, obviously you're getting scarred up and you're getting stitches and shit. But are there moments where even people that know it's sort of a show where they're like, holy fuck?
I think that's one of the goals
Is to make that feeling happen.
I think people. I think I can kind of wear it like a badge of honor if somebody's like, yeah, I know this shit's fake, but Punk and this guy, they really hate each other, and he just really kicked him in the face. You know what I mean? Like
That's it then, isn't it?
That's as good as it gets.
That's what being a professional wrestler is.
Yeah.
It's just like being a comic. It's like he's just making this shit up.
Right.
He's just making this shit up right now.
The end of Blade Runner?
Yeah.
Rutger Hauer.
Yeah.
There's that awesome, supposedly ad-libbed, soliloquy.
Right,
you know what I
where
mean?
he's dying, when he's
yeah,
dying.
and to me, who's to really say that that's 100% ad-libbed? But it's gone down in movie folklore that he just did that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's over the years kind of grown a life of its own, and it's like legend now. It's like, fuck, he just did that. He just ad-libbed it. Wow, that's great. So you can watch that scene and almost appreciate it more than you would watch another scene knowing somebody wrote it and they were just lines. This guy just did that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that is like that. Well, these guys really hate each other. No, they're really fighting. Oh, look at this. You know what I mean? The ref's
Right.
really separating them.
Right.
Right.
So when those lines become hazy,
Yes.
even when you can say heel, face, bad guy, good guy, that's this script, that's that script, I saw the tactics and all that, all that stuff, it's real interesting to me what you were saying that, there's an improvisation to it, there's a skill set to it, but once you transcend that and you actually, become, a great wrestler, it's when that line becomes blurred. It's like everyone knows it's fake, but
It's not
those
about
fucking guys.
It's not about the moves.
Right.
It's about how you do them, when you do them.
It's about the theatrics, the drama. For people to really believe that you hate somebody, even though they know wrestling is what it is, they're emotionally invested in that.
Yes.
So there's definitely some part of almost any wrestling fan that doesn't really know it's fake.
Right.
That refuses to accept it.
Or at least you can suspend their disbelief.
Right. That's the integrity of wrestling right
yeah,
there.
when I sat down on that stage in Vegas and I did that interview you were talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, that was, I think that's easily the biggest moment of my career. Because whether you want to believe what I was saying was real or whether you're jaded and you're like, nah, it's bullshit, he was just reading a script, you know what I mean? That fucked a lot of people up. Everyone was just like, wait a second.
Well, I don't think it had ever been done that way. Whatever the scripts are, and I know there are scripts because I watched that thing, and it was 2011.
Yeah.
And I think what I felt, not knowing the whole political structure of wrestling, was that you were calling wrestlers out in a way.
in a way that probably hadn't been heard before. It's like, you know, everyone knows Vince McMahon. Everyone knows the business of wrestling. But you were literally saying that these wrestlers are ass kissers and they're fucking political players. They don't have any respect for the integrity of the sport in a sense, or the show in a sense. And you were, whether you were playing the part or not, you were a guy that was like calling out the entire system.
Yeah, I was pissed. And I'm absolutely at my best when I'm pissed.
But you were really pissed.
Fucking furious.
But when they shut the mic down, did you know they were going to shut the mic up?
I knew. Well, that was the thing. It was Vince. They called me earlier in the day, and they were like, "You're not going to believe this. Vince wants you to air your grievances." And I was like, well, I can't do that because he'd just get fucking mad at me. But I didn't care because I was like, what are they going to do? Fire me? Great. Then I don't have to go to Australia tomorrow. You know?
Well, how did they know what? Okay, so this is like, you were in the system for how long before that?
6 years, 5, 6, 7, 8.
And you were fed up.
Yes.
And you basically, you know, let the corporate structure know that you were fucking fed up. You weren't getting your shot, and it was bullshit because, you know, you paid your dues. You were a fucking, you know, great wrestler. And why weren't they giving you a shot? Why weren't they giving you a shot in your mind?
You know, God, I don't know. In my mind,
yeah.
I'm too small. I have all these tattoos. I'm not poster boy material. I'm not all super huge and, you know, jacked up, and, you know, I don't fit the mold.
Right.
You know, like I don't.
And you made this apparent to the corporate structure.
Yeah, because what I was looking at was re-sign for another 3 years of fucking this misery
of not getting your shot.
Yeah, like.
Just so, what was your role then? You were the guy. You were just just a bad guy that they had on hand.
In my mind, I was the bad guy. There wasn't a better bad guy in the business at the time. You know what I mean? And to me, best bad guy fights the best good guy.
Yeah.
Like what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know, get with the program here. You know what I mean? Like,
and they weren't giving you
nobody in that company at the time. Like, I had grandmothers jumping the rail, slapping me in the face. You know what I mean? Because I was doing this straight edge society thing where I looked like Charles Manson. I had this big beard and long hair, and like I was doing real, like I was writing my own stuff, and they were letting me do it because
straight edge society.
I think a lot of that was way over their heads. It was like really.
What was the whole angle of it?
I'm straight edge in real life, abstained from drugs and alcohol and all that stuff, and
you never drank or never did any of that shit ever?
No, and I think when people hear that, they're really weirded out by it, and I think through my experiences, people are always what's the word? Not offended, but they're immediately like, well, okay, well, fuck this guy. You know what I mean? Like,
what makes you better than us?
Right. Or I'm a fucking narc, and they get paranoid.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It calls out their fucking problems.
Yeah.
Because as a guy who doesn't drink, people are always like, well, do you care if I do?
Yeah.
So like they automatically assume that you're condescending.
Absolutely.
Right.
So that was the on-screen character, and I turned it into this quasi, almost religious thing where I was offending everybody, man.
Yeah.